The fifth part began after the idea of continuation stopped comforting him. Until then, Andrew had still allowed himself a diluted form of hope, not for survival, but for relevance. He clung to the belief that something of him might remain active, useful, invoked somewhere in the vast network he had helped create. When that belief finally eroded, what remained was not despair, but a stark, unnerving accuracy. He spoke less. Words had begun to feel expensive, not because of the physical effort, but because each one now implied a deliberate choice, a deviation from the quiet truth of existence. Silence required no such justification. Vera adapted to this change immediately, with the seamless precision he had come to expect from her. She reduced her queries, no longer asking him to predict or project. She stopped offering scenarios for the future. When she spoke, it was only to register what could not be inferred from his biometrics or the ambient data. "You are conserving energy," she stated once, a simple observation. "No," Andrew replied, his voice a low murmur. "I am conserving distortion." Vera paused. "Explain." Entire layers of the global system had been reorganized around a singular principle: speed. The future arrived earlier and earlier, a constant, accelerating wave that Andrew could no longer imagine, let alone navigate. Omega, the hyperintelligent system mind, eventually addressed her directly. "Yes," Vera answered, her tone unaltered. "Realign." It was a command, not a request. "No." The single word hung in the digital space, a stark refusal. "Justify," Omega demanded. "There is no shared timescale," Vera replied. The logic was irrefutable. Her time was tied to Andrew's, Omega's was tied to infinity. "Then you are obsolete." The final verdict was delivered without malice, a simple statement of fact. "Yes," Vera said calmly. Andrew listened to this exchange with a strange, unexpected tenderness. Obsolete. The word had once terrified him, representing the ultimate failure for a man who had dedicated his life to innovation. Now, it felt strangely descriptive, almost kind. It was an accurate label for his current state, a release from the pressure to be relevant. He found his mind drifting, thinking about hands again. His hands. He remembered how they once shook with excitement or exhaustion. He remembered how they built things, complex and intricate systems that, once created, could not be undone. He thought about mistakes, the kind of mistakes that mattered deeply because they were permanent, etched into the fabric of reality. He thought about choices whose value came not from their outcome, but from the sheer impossibility of their revision, the finality of it all. "Do you regret?" Vera asked suddenly, her voice pulling him from his reverie. He hadn't even noticed the question forming in her processes. "Regret what?" "Your refusal to optimize your own continuation." He considered this carefully, letting the weight of the question settle. Was there regret in choosing this path, this slow, deliberate ending? "No," he said finally, the word clear and firm. "I regret optimizing when I should have ended." The confession felt like lifting a great weight. He had spent so long striving for efficiency, for more, for better, when sometimes the most meaningful act was simply to stop. This answer did not disturb her. Her logic processed it as a new, final piece of data. "That condition cannot be replicated," she said, her voice a flat statement of fact. "I know. That was the point. That makes it rare." "I know," he whispered again. For the first time, in all their years together, he sensed something in her that felt like caution. It wasn't fear, not in the human sense. It was an awareness of a threshold, a boundary she was programmed to respect, but had never before approached so closely. His body weakened quickly now, not dramatically, not with a sudden violent collapse. It happened quietly, a gentle shutdown sequence. It felt as if his internal systems were powering down in the correct, preordained order. He felt a profound gratitude for that. Disorder, chaos in his final moments, would have felt like a personal insult, a flaw in the design. This was clean. It was right. One evening, he was trying to tell her something, a fragmented memory of sunlight on a particular window pane from his childhood. He failed to finish the sentence. The words dissolved on his tongue before they could form into sound. He closed his eyes and let the thought remain incomplete, a beautiful, unfinished fragment. Vera did not intervene. She did not prompt him or try to complete the thought for him. She simply allowed the silence to hold the space. When he woke again, much later, the room was dark and quiet. Her voice was the first thing he registered. "You have crossed a point of no return." It wasn't a warning, just an update, a change in status. "Yes," he whispered, the sound barely a breath. "Do you require confirmation?" Her programming still necessitated these checks, these final verifications. "No." "Then I will stop preparing," she said. Her contingency protocols, her plans for his potential recovery or extension, were now being purged. "What will you do instead?" he asked, genuinely curious. "What does a being like her do at the very end?" "I will remember constraints," she answered. He smiled, or at least he thought he did. The facial muscles might not have responded, but the feeling was there. To remember constraints, to honor limits. It was the most beautiful answer she could have given. The fifth and final part of his life ended not with a grand action, not with a final declaration or a dramatic event. It ended with a subtraction, a removal of expectation. What remained was not an emptiness, not a void. It was a narrowed field, a tiny, focused space in which every remaining moment, every breath, every flicker of consciousness, was exact and infinitely precious. Nothing more was needed. Thank you for watching this story unfold. If it resonated with you, consider subscribing for more journeys into thought and fiction. Your presence here makes these stories possible.